Hi, guys. Welcome to the Real Food Recovery Podcast. You have to know that when it comes to recovery from ultra processed food use disorder, there's one organ that carries more weight than most people realize: the liver. It's not just about detoxification. The liver impacts cravings, blood sugar balance, mood, hormones, and even how quickly your body can begin to heal. Today, we're joined by Dr. Vaughn Watts to uncover the hidden role of liver in recovery. We'll talk about what ultra processed foods really do to this vital organ, how to know if your liver is struggling, and most importantly, what steps you can take to restore it. If you've ever wondered whether your body can bounce back after years of processed food, this episode will give you the science, the hope, and the practical tools you need. Let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Vaughn Watts. He is at the forefront of gut brain functional medicine, helping thousands translate symptoms as signals into lasting recovery. A former military intelligence professional turned clinician, he blends systems level thinking with evidence informed practice to solve the two upstream drivers of chronic illness: deficiency and toxicity. As the author of Foundational Wellness, the simple system that ends doctor dependency forever, he offers a clear, stepwise framework that turns complex science into simple daily habits. Today, he advises executives, teams, and media on building energy, focus, and resilience in a high stress, digital first world. And I will have his website on the posting copy with our podcast today for you to find out more about him. But first, let's say hello. How's it going? Happy to have you here with us today.
Well, happy to be here. It's going good. Nice. Happen to be in California today, so it's nice and sunny. A little bit of a break from the Idaho weather that I normally experience this time of year.
Yes, exactly. It's still probably a little chilly there.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty similar actually, because I know you're in Wichita, and we just moved from Kansas about 3, 4 years ago. So
Oh, where were you?
we were in Overland Park for about
Ah,
13 years, and my
my
practice at one point was in I practiced in Warrensburg, believe it or not. I commuted up to Warrensburg, Missouri, in Daly and worked up there. So
Oof.
yeah,
Yeah. My dad actually lives in Overland Park. So what a small world. I feel so connected to you
I
right now.
know. Hey, well, go Chiefs, right?
Oh, yeah. Are you still a Chiefs fan or have you?
You want to know what's funny is I would go to a lot of the games because I mean, how can you live in Kansas City and not go to a Chiefs game, right?
Right.
Doesn't even make sense. Um, but my son grew up a diehard Chiefs fan, big time.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I grew up in San Diego, not unfortunately, very fortunately. So I grew up a hardcore Chargers fan, but that waned very quickly as soon as they left and went to LA. So, it makes it hard to cheer for them now. So it's a little easier to cheer for the Chiefs.
Well, I'm just watching for the love story, actually. That's all I care about is are we going to get a spotting of Taylor Swift on the next?
I think you and 30% of the country.
It really did do a little to help the audience attendance at the Chiefs game. So, anyway, we've digressed a little bit, but so I've gotten to know you a little bit through this
Yeah.
conversation now, but I would love to know a little bit more about you, of what pulled you into this area specifically. And I like to ask my guest, was there a light bulb moment or a dimmer switch moment that pulled you to where you're thinking, I think I want to devote more of my time in this
Yeah.
specialty area?
Yeah, it's quite the area. So I was one of those kids that grew up in the late 70s, early 80s, and through the 80s is, my childhood. Um, my mom was probably back then considered one of those woo-woo people, I would go to a chiropractor when I was, in the early 80s, and
Oh,
my
wow.
mom was into very holistic food and healthy food.
Okay.
And
I
I
like
think
her
I
already.
think the most sugary, like our idea of a sugary cereal was like a treat. It was like Honey Nut Cheerios. Like that was the level of, otherwise it was plain, right? If there was cereal at all. And so she was really into natural health, and it is probably what extended her life as long as it did, with some of the health issues she had. And so when it was kind of funny, I was actually in the mortgage business.
Hmm.
I got out of the Marine Corps, went into the mortgage industry, was doing very well with that. And then '08 happened, and the company I worked for closed their doors overnight without telling anybody.
Oh, oh my
So,
gosh.
you go from your paycheck to not looking at a paycheck the very next day, but your bills are still there, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I had to make a big, I mean, it was a big, I mean, it hit a lot of families hard in '08, and so you had to make a big decision. And then I remember sitting in bed one night and I think I told my wife, I'm like, I should have went to chiropractic school or something. I always loved it. It helped me a lot. When I was in the Marine Corps, I broke my neck. And so I
Whoa.
had neck pain for years until I got out of the Marine Corps and started going to the chiropractor. And within 3 months, no more neck pain, after having neck pain for years. It's just another example of why chiropractic was always such a big part of my life. And I remember telling her, I'm like, man, maybe I should just go back to school. I'm 32 with 4 kids,
Oh
and,
gosh.
all stair step, 20 months apart. And she looked at me and she goes, maybe you should. I was like, wait, really? Like, you know what that entails, right? Like, basically, we're starting over. And so
Uh-huh.
that's exactly what we did. We started over, moved out to Kansas City. And so my kids were born and raised out there. I have 2 kids that graduated from St. James Academy, 3 that went there, and right there in Lenexa, Kansas. And then, when I came out of school, I thought I was going to kind of be more specialized in kind of like sports chiropractic. And within the first year of coming out, I took this mastering blood chemistry, um, a seminar. And then from there, within a year, I started moving towards functional medicine. And it's just for me, my brain, I have too much of a squirrel brain. So just sitting there doing the same thing over and over, after a while, I'm going to get bored.
Mm-hmm.
So in functional medicine, the nice thing is because you're almost like there's like a detective, right? We get the
Yeah.
people that come in. I'm not the first doctor they come to see. I'm the last.
Right.
And so at
Mm-hmm.
that point, they've already had many doctors fail them. And so the cool thing about that is I mean, it's a puzzle. And so your mind is constantly stimulated. I mean, you're seeing patients, and even though you have similarities between other patients, each patient is unique in what is causing their issue, albeit similar other things. There's usually some catalyst that is specific for them. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, it became very, um, maybe just stimulating to the mind. And it just kind of called me. And then next thing I know, 90% of my patients, 95% of my patients are autoimmune thyroid Hashimoto patients. And I never marketed it. I just started working with some. And then actually, apparently I became a thyroid doc, and I spent a lot of time working with women that have struggled a lot with thyroid and autoimmune thyroid. And um, I tell you what, though, when you get to work with people like that and they do get better, these are women or individuals that have been working with doctors for years and years, some 10, 15 years to no avail. And so when you're the doctor that does get to see the change, there is nothing more rewarding than that, to really get to see somebody's life change.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and to us, a lot of people, it seems stupid, oh, not a big deal. They couldn't eat bread. You don't know what that entails when you start talking about gluten. That's not just bread. I mean, it is I mean, you just look at how many things that affects and how restrictive that makes your life. Um, and that's just a little thing, but to be able to see those small changes is what drives, especially doctors in this field.
Yeah. That's amazing. And first of all, I was thinking when your wife said, maybe you should, you probably were like, don't say that. That's
I
that's scary that you're agreeing with me. That means I got to move forward and do something about it.
know,
So I had to
right?
laugh about that really? You're supposed to
Yeah.
stop me.
Yeah, well, you know what? Like that's the thing. It's much easier. Life is not always easy. Life's hard, but when you
Oh,
have
yeah.
somebody who believes in you sometimes more than you believe in yourself,
Yes.
it makes it much easier. And for
Yeah.
her, she believed that, yeah, you can do it. We got 4 kids. They were young. Our oldest was in first grade. And so somehow I did 27 credit hours a semester, 3 semesters a year. So we only had 2-week breaks between semesters. For those that think chiropractic school is, 2-year, trade school, like, no, it's 4 years and it's trimesters, and you get 2-week breaks between trimesters. You don't get summer breaks. And it is just balls to the walls. And I did that and somehow worked and somehow coached, and my wife was still able to be at home with the kids. And so, those are just those times in life where you're just like, all right, it's time to grind.
You find out what you're made of,
Yeah.
right?
And she
Uh,
already she already knew what I was made of. So I had to find that out for myself.
yeah. I This is a sidestep, but I have to tell you, I can't stop myself from telling you this. My brother-in-law is actually a chiropractor in Kansas City and went to chiropractic school in Kansas City. So
To Cleveland.
I
Yeah,
guess I
yeah, there's only
don't
one
know.
there. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's one school in Kansas City. It's been there since I think 1906. One
Hmm.
of the oldest schools in the country. Yeah.
Yeah. And his practice is in Olathe, I believe.
What's his
So
last name? I'm just curious.
Cook, K O
Dr. Cook?
K O C H Corey, tall guy,
Okay.
6'5",
Okay.
6'6". Yeah. Yeah.
In all fairness, there's a lot of chiropractors in Kansas City because there's a chiropractic
Ah.
school there. So there's about 1,000.
Oh.
There's a lot that end up staying there because it's a nice area. And so you
Hmm.
probably have about 1,000 chiropractors in just the Kansas City metro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a small world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about the liver. You want to talk
Let's
about
do
the
it.
liver a little bit? We know that many people think the liver is important. We all think it's important, but few understand just how much it does. Do you want to explain on a kindergarten level what the liver's role is in overall health and why it's central to recovery from ultra processed food use disorder? And maybe what drew you to that organ specifically?
Yeah. Well, let me do this. Let me start by explaining what drew me to it because that would kind of explain why I even have interest in it, right?
Yeah.
So my book called Foundational Wellness, the whole concept is a system I developed in practice that I later trained thousands of doctors on. There's a lot of doctors throughout the country and world that are doing this system, and the concept kind of behind it is pretty basic. Pretty much most all disease is caused by one problem, and that's organ dysfunction. The human body is a self-healing organism when put in the right condition. And what does the right condition mean? Well, when our organs have all of the essential vitamins, minerals, and nutrients we need in order to do their job, in order to complete the pathways, right? And devoid of toxins, which can inhibit the organ from doing what it needs to do. So that could be heavy metal toxicity, parasites, mold, even emotional toxins. And this is where sometimes I lose
Oh.
people and they go, okay, now doc's going to get all woo-woo on me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, well, let's use a perfect simple example. We know that when human beings get extremely stressed out, what happens? It
Inflammation.
affects the function of their adrenals,
Yeah.
right? And then your adrenals cause your cortisol levels to spike. And that's not because of just whatever, it's because of the emotional stress that causes that spike. So I consider that like an emotional toxin, right? It's
Yeah,
it's
I agree.
altering the organ's job to do what it needs to do the right way. So when you understand that, then you go, okay, well, what's one of the most important organs in the body? And you're like, well, it's the liver. The liver performs over 500 essential functions in the body. It receives 25% of the cardiac output, and somewhere around, like, I think approximately 10% of people worldwide have some form of liver disease. But when you really look and say, well, what else does it do? Well, it does a lot of things. Well, first of all, the liver is one of the most resilient organs in the human body. You can, when somebody donates their liver, as an organ donator or donator, an organ donor, a donator, that's kind of funny.
Same thing.
Um, they'll take that one liver and they will put that into three different people. So your liver has three lobes, and they'll take one lobe each, and that one lobe will completely regenerate into a full liver.
Mhm.
No different than like with us, our liver can regenerate. I think it's within like 90 days it's almost a completely new liver. It unless, you have some major damage to the liver, from alcoholism or non-alcoholic fatty liver disease or things like that. But it is such an important thing because everything goes through the liver, whether it be a drug, whether, pharmaceuticals that you're taking, the liver has to process it. Supplements, your liver processes it. Food, your liver processes it. So anything toxins, that's your master detox organ is the liver. And so everything goes through the liver. So if the liver is not functioning at a high level, then it starts to get bogged down and then it causes all the other issues. And you're like, well, what's the big deal? Well, the liver produces about 80% of cholesterol is made by the liver and stored in the liver, right? And then the liver, when your body needs it, it releases it. And so people can understand this and are listening to this, what you have been taught or what you think you've or what you have heard over the last 30 years that cholesterol is bad is complete and utter garbage science. They've already shown that the two Harvard scientists that were, or not the Harvard scientists, that was a sugar study. The one who did, I forget his name, but the guy who did the study on cholesterol, it was a complete bogus study. Cholesterol, there's nothing wrong with cholesterol. Matter of fact, the newest studies out of Europe are showing that higher cholesterol equals lower mortality rate. Those with low
Ah,
cholesterol have a higher mortality rate, all-cause mortality rate across the board. Because when you run cholesterol, which your liver produces, you're releasing the cholesterol because cholesterol is trying to fix the stuff. So
mm.
when you get inflammation, it causes damage to the arteries. Well, the cholesterol comes in kind of like a pothole filler, trying to help repair the damage. But there you'll never find, and they never have found a post-autopsy um, patient with high cholesterol with blockage in their arteries of cholesterol. They may have calcified from calcium and other things, but not cholesterol. So for those that have learned this, just understand high cholesterol is your body is trying to fix something because something else is going on or something is causing damage.
Oh, that's interesting. That's
30%, because you look at it, your brain, for example, people don't understand like the nerves are covered in that white myelin sheath
mm-hmm.
and the brain is covered in that. That's cholesterol. So your brain, like 30% of your brain is straight cholesterol. And then all of your nerves, which, and then you think about it, almost like it almost like insulates because it covers that nerve. It helps the nervous system immensely. So we need cholesterol, but that's just one big thing that the liver creates along with your thyroid hormones, stores your B vitamins and AEDK vitamins, glucose, and so it stores all this stuff and then it releases it when your body needs it. And at the same time, it's filtering through all the garbage and trying to get rid of the toxins. So it does so much work that you can see if you don't have a really well functioning liver or your liver is bogged down a little bit, it's not to say it's not going to do its job, but it's not going to be able to do the job that it needs to do at a high level, in which
Mm-hmm.
case, when that happens, that's when dysfunction sets in, which then leads to inflammation, which then leads to chronic inflammation, which then leads to disease. And so that's kind of the beginning steps.
Uh, Interestingly, I'm going to make it about me for a minute.
Go for
I,
it. It's
I
good.
have what's called hyperfamilial, no, familial hypercholesterolemia. So no matter how well I eat, I I'm not going to be able to affect that level.
Yeah.
My
Your
my
cholesterol levels.
yeah, my good cholesterol is phenomenal. And my bad is not that bad because I take one little tiny little pill.
So
Uh,
here's the thing. You want me to
yeah, you know what the next question was going to be is, what do you think about that tiny little, I don't know, a 10 milligram pill of,
the Lipitor?
yeah.
Okay. What I think is it is the one of the worst medications you can put in your body. Long term, there's a lot of research from it, linking it to dementia, Alzheimer's. But like I said, I'll send you the study when we get out here because this study I think was just completed either in 25, I think it was 2025, and I think it came out of Sweden. It was a Sweden study that showed, first of all, it's changing. Like I said, we've been taught that there's good cholesterol and bad cholesterol. That's what we've
Mm-hmm.
been taught based off of this one study 50 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
which we now know was a complete garbage study. He manipulated the data to show that. So when you look at cholesterol, there's no such thing as good cholesterol and bad cholesterol. It's cholesterol. And if you're bad, like people want to say cholesterol is elevated, it's elevated and it's not bad. It's elevated because it's trying to do a job. It's trying to do something because something else is not doing the job. And so personally, yeah, no, I would absolutely avoid anybody who's taking any kind of cholesterol medication. Don't take my word for it. Go Google the Sweden study, cholesterol, and you will see that they emphatically proved that across the board, you have a lower mortality, all-cause mortality for those that have higher cholesterol, as opposed to those that have under that 200, that number of people want to be under. But it's a false narrative to begin with.
So my doctor explained it to me. And the reason I'm going into this is because I
Mhm.
want anyone listening who's in that situation. I I'm sure they're leaning in, waiting for you to answer this question. He said the thing with the cholesterol is we can measure the plaque in the peripheral arteries, but we can't in the brain. And so I hate for you to have a stroke versus taking that little pill. So you can talk to that, but also, are you suggesting people go to their doctor and just question them a little bit on the latest science
Yeah,
on?
I would just do this. Go Google the Sweden study. If you just Google the Sweden study cholesterol, it'll show that and bring that with you and bring that because I guarantee you. And here's the thing, this isn't to say anything about what your doctor's telling you, right? Your
Hmm.
doctor is telling you what he's been taught in school, and what
Hmm.
they were taught in school was wrong. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, even when they find that out, like look at this, here's another example. What, 2 years ago, the studies came out proving that SSRIs, antidepressant drugs, do not work.
Oh,
It was published everywhere, all over the place. Do you think most medical doctors are reading that? No. Do you think the vast majority of medical doctors that do prescribe that are still prescribing them?
I
100% they are.
I think
And
they're
it's
afraid not to, don't you think?
Well, I think that's part of it, but I also think part of it is that, once you get into practice, you're so busy practicing, unless you're one of those docs that just likes to get into the studies and see the latest and greatest, they, I guarantee you, your doctor probably doesn't know about that Sweden study.
Hmm.
But yeah, do not, one of the worst, I would say this, one of the, other than opiates and those horrible medications, your average medication like blood pressure med, hypertension, thyroid, all these different ones, if you're to say of those basic ones that a lot of people are on, cholesterol med is the most dangerous medication you can be on and one of the
So
worst.
so the bottom line is that I'm using the phrase the bad cholesterol.
Right.
If it's high, not to worry.
Not to worry at all. And some people run high, like you said, familial,
Yeah.
hypercholesterolemia. Like you have high. No, your genetics, your body. So you may run much higher than somebody else, and guess what?
Hmm.
You're more than likely much healthier than these other people.
Well, my
So,
doctor told me I'm healthy as a horse, which I didn't appreciate that reference, but
yeah,
other than my cholesterol is good now, but all my labs are
yeah,
fantastic. So
yeah,
reflects my eating and
yeah.
lifestyle.
Well, and here's the thing: is you don't eat cholesterol. You get to understand that you do not eat cholesterol. Your body makes cholesterol. The vast majority, like, I mean, so yeah, if you have a clean diet and your cholesterol is high, explain to me how that's a bad thing. Show me the science, show me the studies. But like I said, anybody that's interested, I can always, like I said, look that study up. It's a newer study. It just came out recently. It's a peer-reviewed research study. Um, and I think that came out just within the last couple of years, within the last few years, maybe 2, 3 years. And so you can go on that, or you can go on the study from 50 years ago. That was basically what he did. The guy who did the original study, this is how he did the study. He checked all these cholesterol levels throughout the entire world. And then the countries that screwed up his data, he excluded from the studies to then have his study. So that's a flawed study from the beginning. It's a
Hmm.
manipulated study. And what have we done? We've sold, especially since the 90s, right? What have we, and really, I mean, did you know a lot of people on cholesterol medication back in the 80s? It was kind of
I
like,
mean, I wasn't going around asking people.
right? But it wasn't, you didn't hear much about it. It's been more and more, especially like since the 90s on. And
Hmm.
you can watch that same and I know people say, oh, causation, correlation, same thing with vaccination and autism. And they say, oh, that doesn't, causation, correlation. You're like, okay, well, when we went from 10 vaccines to 72, and it went like this, well, so did the graph with autism, went from here to nothing to here. You do the same thing
Mm-hmm.
with cholesterol. We, how many people grow it? Like I just think of, growing up in like, you know, elementary school, junior high, back in the 80s, and you hear things you didn't like, never heard of, like, nobody talked about cholesterol as much. Or
That's
not
true.
cholesterol, sorry. They didn't talk about it, but you didn't really hear much about dementia and Alzheimer's back in the 80s.
Yeah, now they're calling that type 3 diabetes because of the food industry that
Well,
were.
that's really what it is. It never was cholesterol. It was always sugar.
Hmm.
And they did that to demonize fat and to make sugar. The sugar industry actually paid two Harvard professors, and this has all come out in just the last 10 years or so, and they showed that they were paid off by the sugar industry to write this study about fat being bad. And then that's when the non-fat craze all started in the late
Snackwell
80s,
cookies.
right? Yeah, everything's fat free, fat free.
Uh-huh.
And then you look at fat free and you look at cholesterol meds, and then you also look at the graph that shows dementia and Alzheimer's, and it follows that same trend, just like the vaccines. It's a
Hmm.
massive spike. Nobody even virtually heard of it back in the 70s and 80s. And so there is I'm a firm believer that cholesterol is medication is a huge contributor to dementia and Alzheimer's.
Oh,
And
wow.
sugar is what they found is that sugar is actually, it's not fat. There's nothing wrong with good dietary fat.
Right.
It's bad fat that comes from ultra processed foods. So fat that comes from
Hmm.
a packaged bottle or can,
Hmm.
that's the fat to stay away from. Fat that comes from whole foods, good
Yeah.
fats, right?
Yeah.
And so
Hmm.
what they've shown is that dementia, some of this is actually type 3 diabetes because um, really it's sugar. Sugar is the cause of heart disease. Sugar the cause of the vast majority of diseases, metabolic diseases, period.
My sister has coined the phrase sugar is the devil.
Yeah, it is.
You mentioned inflammation when we first started talking, and I heard a doctor speaking about inflammation and how he was saying that it's near impossible for anyone to get cancer if they have no inflammation within the cells. Do you concur with that? He said it can't, inflammation needs to be present in
Yeah.
general inside the cell in order for cancer to occur, which, the inflammation causes the division of unhealthy cells to multiply and continue on doing that. And as long as we are in a position where we are eating single ingredient foods, the opportunity for inflammation dramatically reduces. Do you agree with all of that?
Yeah. So early on in practice, I used to fully believe that inflammation was the cause of all disease.
Mm-hmm.
And what I realized as I've, from a young doctor to a much more experienced doctor is inflammation is not the cause of all disease, but inflammation is present in all disease. And
Okay.
then that's when you back that up and you back even to my concept, right, which is organ dysfunction is a cause of most all disease. And when the organ stays dysfunctional for a period of time, then inflammation sets in, which
Mm-hmm.
then when we have then leads to chronic inflammation, and then from there eventually leads to disease. We don't get sick overnight in that way. I mean, a flu, cold, I get that, but I mean cancers and other, metabolic issues, it doesn't happen from, one week to the next.
Mm-hmm.
It's a buildup. So yeah,
Yeah.
you can't have disease without inflammation. Inflammation is a huge part, and the one of the best ways to control that is through good gut health and diet.
Thank you. That leads right into what I really want to talk about for our audience that are trying to recover from the effects of ultra processed food is talk about what happens inside the liver when someone actually is having a high diet in the ultra processed foods regularly and why does the liver struggle before other organs do?
But once again, think of it like you're in your car, right? You have your oil filter. So what's going to be the first thing that's going to cause your engine to shut down? You
Mm-hmm.
don't change your oil ever. You could have a brand new car, and eventually that it's going to bog down with the toxins and the gunk and the
Mm-hmm.
goo, which isn't going to
Mm-hmm.
allow things to get where they needs, which is then eventually going to cause that engine to shut down.
Mm-hmm.
That is our liver, that oil filter,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so when it gets bogged down with all these extra toxins or parasites, liver flukes, um, and deficiency as well, which ultra processed foods are pretty devoid of good vitamins and minerals, and even the stuff that's in there, some of them are not the form we want. And even if it is some of the stuff in the form you want, the likelihood that you're absorbing any of that garbage is very little.
I heard someone say the other day the only thing ultra processed foods has is calories. There's no nutrients, there's no vitamins, there's
It's
no
not.
mineral. The only thing ultra processed food contains is calories and lots of them. Is there within ultra processed foods, we talked about sugar a little bit. Would you say that that is the most harmful component of ultra processed foods, or would you say it's seed oils or additives when it comes to liver function?
Well, I mean that's kind of a
Is it a tie?
that's kind of a chicken or the egg. Like I think obviously
Uh-huh.
sugar is especially high consumption of sugar leads to so many different problems.
Agree.
Um, But I mean, when you start throwing in the oils and some of these other ingredients that are in there that have to go through your liver, I mean, they're also very bad. And what people don't
Mhm.
understand is this. Everybody's seen the videos where somebody goes, "Hey, look, here's my McDonald's cheeseburger that's 10 years old," right? Have you
Yeah.
seen those? And you're
Yeah.
like, and it's still intact,
It's perfect.
right? I mean, it's hard, but it's intact. Even bacteria won't eat it because it does not recognize it as food. Think about
Mhm.
that. It is so harmful that even bacteria, you leave anything out, and within a day or two, the mold's going to start to grow on it, right? Bacteria is going to start to
Mhm.
eat that up. It
Mhm.
won't touch most of these fast food things. So what happens to
Mhm.
that kind of food that bacteria doesn't even recognize as real food? What do you think happens to us?
Yeah.
Where does it go to the first place other than breaking down in the stomach? Then it goes into the intestines, which is filled with a bunch of microbiome, which are going to break it down even more, and then intelligently go, ooh, here's a fat, here's a protein, here's a sugar, here's a vitamin, a mineral, and sending those where they need to go and help to break this rest of stuff down and get rid of it. Well, what happens in your body is when your body does not recognize what it is, it doesn't break it down to all those things. It just breaks it down, tries to get rid of as much as it can, and then the rest it just stores as fat. Just like toxins, your body will encapsulate those toxins as a protection mechanism, right? So it'll encapsulate it with lipos, like with fat cells. So I always tell people that want to lose weight, if you don't detox first, you're never going to lose the weight you want because I guarantee you there's plenty of fat cells in there that are in your body just simply protecting your body from harm from these different toxins. So that's why you could eat the same amount of calories as your neighbor, the same amount of food, same amount of calories, but yours is whole food and theirs is McDonald's, and they will gain weight and you will
Mhm.
not gain weight.
Mhm. Mhm. That's wild stuff. I like to tell people that every bite you take is ledgered to the good or the bad inside the mitochondria. They've got to put it somewhere, like you were saying, and it's either ledgered to cellular aging or cellular repair. And
Yeah,
so,
that's a
ain't
great
no,
way of putting it.
yeah, no girl wants to have cellular aging going on, right?
The best thing, here's the thing. People always want the best anti-aging. What's the best anti-aging? Well, honestly, eat whole foods. Like stay away from processed foods is like
Mm-hmm.
if you can stay away from those 90% of the time and you can like be mostly, hey, I eat whole foods, like foods that are organically grown, are not filled with pesticides and chemicals. They're just it's real food.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the way our grandparents ate, right?
Right.
I look at my dad right now. He'll be 87 in next week. He'll be 87
Mm.
next week.
Happy birthday.
He just told me a couple weeks ago he's going back to work. We ran his blood panels because he was kind of not doing well a few months ago, in a lot of pain. Turned out all it was just his hip. He got hip surgery, got a hip replacement, but his blood panels as an 87-year-old on zero medications
Oh,
is
wow.
spotless as an
Hmm.
87-year-old. His physiology is perfect, but he's also one of those old school guys. I can never remember my dad eating fast food growing up.
Wow.
He was always, and for two reasons. One, he grew up meat and potatoes kind of guy.
Yeah.
Just he wants real food. He doesn't want the junk food. He just didn't grow up that way. And the other thing is, when we grew up a family of 8 kids in San Diego, so we didn't grow up with money, and so everything was made from scratch. And so
Hmm.
when you eat that way, very you live a much longer life.
Yeah, I noticed that you said if you can eat whole foods 90% of the time, you're going to be in good shape. The irony to that is, let's say you're on vacation or you go out to a restaurant or something and you're like, oh, I'm going to let my freak flag fly here for a
Yeah.
minute. You feel terrible. You can't even enjoy it because your stomach kills you. It's like putting bad gasoline in a premium engine and it's
Yeah.
spitting and sputtering. You will not like what happens
You feel the
next.
difference. You
I
feel the
I think
difference
so
for sure.
too.
Pretty
I
quickly.
think
Hmm.
I think so too. We talked about where liver can be damaged, but from years of ultra processed food use. And do you believe that that's irreversible, or can healing still occur for people listening that might be scared out of their mind right now if they've been fighting for decades with this? Can they repair the damage that's ever been done to the liver? Do you want to talk about that?
That's the blessing of the liver.
Mm-hmm.
The liver is the one organ that literally can completely regenerate within 90 days. Completely. Like you can have a completely new liver in you 90 days later, just from your liver
Nice.
regenerating itself. So yes, if you have done damage to your liver, because it used to be alcohol, everybody's like alcohol, we got, alcoholic fatty liver disease. Now it's non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which is
Yeah,
taking over.
yeah, talk about
Mhm.
that.
It's leading the way. Yeah, it's a very bad issue. We'll get into that a little bit. And you're starting to see it in kids that have this, like
Oof.
teenagers. And like people are like, well, what is it? Well, what is alcohol? Alcohol is a sugar. That's all alcohol is. It's a sugar. Now, if you eat just ultra processed foods, your kid is eating mac and cheese and ramen and chicken nuggets from wherever. You're eating all this ultra processed food. That is the same as you are basically just feeding your kid alcohol, because that is what's causing the non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. It's the ultra processed food that is filled with sugars and artificial sugars and all sorts of other stuff. And everything that has a package is filled with sugar. And so that is causing a big problem. Like you think about people, some of us are, been around a little bit, like, people that have had liver disease and you're like, oh, he drank alcohol pretty heavily for 20 years. He's like, this kid's eating sugar pretty heavily for 10 years, 15 years. They're 15 years old and they've eaten a ton of sugar their whole life. And,
Kills
and
me.
now they have the same kind of liver issue as an alcoholic of 20 years, right? But it's very easy. You change your diet, detox out your liver, and it's very easy. There's lab companies. I think there's a big lab company called Vibrant Wellness. You can order labs that will check for environmental toxins like pesticides, molds, mycotoxins, heavy metal toxicity. You can check to see if you have that inside of you. And
Mm.
if you do, which I can tell you right now, um, I don't know that I mean, 99% of Americans are going to show positive for that just because of
Oh,
what we're
wow.
exposed to. It's so bad. So clean out your liver, go into a whole food diet. And I'm a big 80-20 guy. I said 90% of the time, but I'm a big 80-20 guy. If you can at least eat healthy 80% of the time, that 20% of the time that you eat something, you're out the ball field or you're running after a game. And I've got kids that are all sports. So I mean, I get that life. And I'm not a purist when it comes to food. And that's probably one of the things that, as a functional medicine doctor, I think everybody expects me to be gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, this free, that free. I'm not. I like food. So I do it really simple. If you want nutrition 101, super simple, here it is. Eat real food. If it
Yeah.
grows on the ground, in the ground, swims or flies, you're good to go.
Mm-hmm.
If it comes out of a package, bottle, or can, avoid it. And if you
Mm-hmm.
can do that 80% of the time, the human body and the liver is made to filter the crap out.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is most Americans are 80% garbage and 20% they
Mm-hmm.
eat good. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? And so if you can flip-flop that and then make it super simple. And people think that eating healthy is so difficult and you have to eat organic and you have to do this. It's like, you want to know what? In this day and age, the only organic food you can actually eat that's organic is the food you grow yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because even if you buy it from Whole Foods or natural grocers or a co-op, they've already tested multiple times, gone in and tested the fruits and vegetables in there, which test positive for glyphosate, which is the active ingredient in Roundup. And it's not because
Ugh.
they're necessarily farming that way, but the regulations are different. Hey, it was organically grown in South America or Central America. And then when it comes to the US, then they spray it all after it was organically farmed,
Mm-hmm.
or it was grown next to a regular farm. So the pesticides blow over. And so I don't get too caught up in you have to eat only organic. I do this good, better, best. If you can eat what I just said, whole foods, 80/20, you're good to go. You want to do better? Great. Try to eat more organic, eat, hormone-free, eat good meat, the stuff that doesn't have antibiotics, all that garbage. Best is you grow your own garden and you got
Right.
and you got a cow out in the field.
I knew you were going to say that.
That's best. Not everybody can do that. And not
Yeah.
everybody can even really do better per se, but everybody can do good, which is eat real food.
Yeah. I like to say, I want you to eat food that rots
Yes,
within when I want Mother Nature to have touched
yeah,
it needed water, it needed sunshine. Twinkies and Cheetos did not come from Mother Nature. So if you can see it with your eyeballs and there's one ingredient, there's no ingredient list because there's not a list.
right.
It orange is an orange. And the other thing that I heard the other day that I thought was so fabulous is it's the foods that don't have a marketing campaign behind them. Those are the foods you want to eat because the
Yep.
foods with a long list of ingredients come with a marketing campaign. You don't hear commercials about broccoli,
No, you don't.
right? Because they're follow the money trail that
If
there's
you
not a broccoli industry.
There's not. If you really want to, and that's a good point because there are some whole foods that do have a lot of money behind them. So
Such as,
you think of like milk or
oh, I see.
chicken,
Yeah,
or
okay.
chicken or beef.
Mm-hmm.
You have these
Mm-hmm.
big American beef and American chicken and
Yeah.
dairy that are all behind all this stuff. The average beef, chicken, and dairy that you consume in the US is horrible. Matter of fact, it's banned. You couldn't even eat the same stuff we eat here is not even legal in Europe.
Mm.
You eat the USDA chicken, beef, dairy, and GMOs is all banned in Europe,
Mm-hmm.
but we can eat it here for some reason. And it's because of the almighty dollar. And you look at it and go, well, but dairy is good. And it's like, well, dairy coming from a dairy is not good. And people think they're eating healthier. They go, for example, they go, oh, why do 2% milk? Great. So you're cutting out the best part of the milk, which is the fat.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this was back in like 2014, 15, 16, somewhere around there. Harvard released a study showing that 2% milk has added sugar.
Oh
Well,
gosh, I'm
well,
sure.
well, of course they add sugar to 2%, 1% in skim because when you remove the fat, that's the taste. So then they add sugar back in. So people think they're eating healthier because they get 2% milk, and actually that's way worse for you. They're taking the fat out, which is, by the way, good. Good dietary fat is good for you. And now they're
Mm-hmm.
putting sugar in to replace it.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you really want to do something, you really want to see how quick you're in and out of the grocery store, you should be on the edges and never in the middle and
Yes.
see how quick.
Yes.
Try to go to the grocery store one time and shop only on the edges of the grocery store
Mm-hmm.
and don't buy anything in the middle and
Mm-hmm.
see what that experience is like. It'll be eye-opening.
The statistics is I want to say it's 80 or 85% of processed food in the grocery store. The middle makes
Yeah.
up 80 or 85%.
Well, and here's the other thing, and I'm not trying to be the guy that's just like knocking on or knocking down things, but go to Whole Foods. What is Whole Foods? It's an entire grocery store of healthy ultra processed foods.
Right.
I mean, that's all it is.
I
It's the
know.
exact same thing. Now it's
I
a
know.
package of chips and thing, but oh, but this is gluten-free chips. Who
Mm-hmm.
gives a crap? It's still ultra processed
Yeah,
food.
totally. I
And
agree.
so
Only
it's
it's
not
three
any
times
better.
more.
And yeah, except you're paying three times the price for it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The nice thing is this happened before we left Kansas. So this is about 5, 6 years ago, is Aldi's, which is the big grocery store
Yeah.
chain in the
Mm-hmm.
Midwest. We don't
Mm-hmm.
have that out here on the West Coast.
Oh.
But most people don't know this, but about 5, 6 years ago, Aldi converted all their fruits and vegetables all organic.
Oh. No, I did not know that.
Yeah.
And,
And I
and the,
guess the story back in the day is the two brothers that started it, these brothers from I forget which country, but over in Europe, one started Aldi's, one started Whole Foods.
oh, interesting. Is that true?
I have to look, but supposedly it was. And
Yeah.
at the beginning, I don't know if it really is, but I mean, all these did. It was about 5, 6 years ago. They changed to they changed their produce to all organic.
And
But
can
it's
I
a
put,
very affordable. It's a very
thank you.
affordable.
That's exactly
Um,
what I was getting ready to say.
it's like the most affordable grocery store, at least in
Yes.
the Midwest that I'd ever seen.
Yes. And so when people say, I can't afford it, it's too expensive, look for grocery stores like that, or look for your
Yeah.
local grocery store that what produce is on sale that week. There is a way. So I don't buy that. It's too expensive for me to eat that way. You know what's expensive? Insulin.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Medications, going to the
it
doctor, your copay, um your deductible, that's expensive. I
yeah.
have a family of six, and you know what my biggest problem every year is when I'm looking at my like medical health insurance and going, I don't want this. I don't
Hmm.
want to pay $1,000 or $1,500 a month for a premium for some insurance that I never use. My kids
Hmm.
would never go to the doctor other than
Hmm.
stitches or broken bones,
Yeah.
period. And
Hmm.
so you're having to pay all this money. That's my biggest thing. I'm like, why would I be paying a
I
mortgage
know.
payment for insurance that I never
I
use and never will
agree.
use?
I agree.
So
It's a killer.
that's way more expensive than buying Whole Foods.
Yeah. I want to circle back to your 80/20 rule, and I'm going to talk about why I agree with that as someone who's out there promoting to not eat processed foods. I'm going to say one thing about sugar is I can't do 80/20 when it comes to sugar because that is so highly toxic and so
Mhm.
extraordinarily addictive. I can't afford to eat that 20% of the time because if I do, I'm going to be back into it 100%
And,
of the time.
and by the 80/20, just so you know, nor should anybody make 20% of their diet that. What I'm referring to is if you can do either good, better, or best
Yes.
and eat whole foods
Mm-hmm.
80% of the time,
Mm-hmm.
the other stuff that you eat the other 20% of the time, maybe it's snack at the gas station, or maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
you're just having to go grab pizza because you're leaving the
Mm-hmm.
ball field or whatever
Yeah.
it is. That's kind of more what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
And not all that's ultra processed. Some is just
Yeah.
you're eating out,
Yeah.
and that's life. You
And
can't
that's
you can't
eh,
avoid life, and that's
yeah.
where I come in as like a functional medicine doctor. There's so many influencers online. You don't eat this and don't eat this and don't eat this, and you're just like, man, if I listen to everybody online, I can't eat anything because I even
Yeah.
have influencers online tell me that vegetables are bad and they're
Oh
poisonous.
gosh. Yeah.
And so and that's why I say truth is simple.
Yes.
All
I love
truth
that.
is simple.
Love
When
that statement.
so when it's not simple, it's complex, it's not
Hmm.
truthful more than likely.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you don't need an influencer to tell you what to eat and not to eat.
Yeah.
It's so simple. It's
Common
like I said,
sense.
if you eat real food, it grows on the ground, in the ground, swims or flies, and you make your plate look like a $70 plate from a really high-end restaurant,
Hmm.
half your plate's some kind of vegetable, a quarter of your plate is a really high quality fat protein meat, And
Mm-hmm.
then your healthy starch or carb is just a little, scoop of rice pilaf. Like that right there, that is eating healthy. When I explain
I
that to
hear.
most people, they're like, oh, they assume when I say eat healthy, that means I can't eat anything good and it's gonna suck.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
just
it's
celery
like,
sticks. Yeah.
no, go to a Ruth Chris, go to a nice restaurant like that. Look what the plate looks like.
Yeah.
That's healthy. Eat that way all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And the reason the agreement part I have with you on the 80/20 is because I think when you get too rigid, then we're starting to cross over into a territory that can backfire. So if I go on vacation and I've climbed a mountain and everybody's going out for pizza, I'm probably going to eat the pizza. But let me say this caveat too is know thy triggers. I know that pizza is something that I'll have and I won't think about it again. Where if I would have had the chocolate cake, that would have been a problem for me the next day. So if you can eat a piece of pizza, or I might have a hamburger and french fries on vacation, but it's not, I will prefer to get back to my heavy salads and protein, lean proteins and things like that. That's my preference. So know thy triggers. So I know where I can go and where I can't at this point after 5 years of being sugar free. So anyway, I just wanted to say I applaud your realistic approach about we are humans. We are in situations where it's you just have to do the best you can.
What do you do? And what I found is, and the reason I kind of went to this years ago is obviously working with a lot of thyroid patients. I also worked with a lot of people that were trying to lose weight. And what I found is that when you make things too restrictive, then it becomes difficult to follow. And then after somebody falters two, three, four times, they finally just throw their hands and go, oh, screw this. It's too hard. I can't do it. So even with weight loss, I would tell my patients, you need to have a cheat day once a week. And they're like, what? I'm like, you need to have it because then, and you can be any day of the week. Say your cheat day is Friday because you go on date night. Great. But what happens on Wednesday when you ended up cheating Wednesday? And
Mm-hmm.
then you end up cheating 2 days later. And then again, and there's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, okay, well, you cheated Wednesday. Okay, so now this week, Wednesday's your cheat day. You didn't fail, you know, and trying to find ways to make them feel like you're not failing. So you got to have, still have to be able to enjoy life. I love food. Like I love good food. When I go back home, I talk about parasites all the time. Parasites, 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 right? Because they really are pretty prevalent. And then I go back home to Hawaii with my wife, where her family all lives. And there's not a chance in hell that you're not going to find this guy who talks about parasites and tells you all the things to avoid, that I'm probably not going to have some raw poke there because it's the
Mm-hmm.
best. It's fresh. It's so amazing. So I'm also a realist. I'm like, okay, I'm going to eat some of the stuff that I know I love. And then guess what?
Mm-hmm.
As soon as vacation's done, I'm going to take care of the bad that I did. And now I've got to go do an oil change. So now I'm going to probably, run some liver and some, some parasite stuff because I know I did it. But at the same time, it's like you have these phases in life. It's like, so what? Oh, so think about the year. Okay, well, we have Christmas, we have Thanksgiving, and then you
Mm-hmm.
have Halloween. And then as you're going backwards, this kid's birthday or that person's birthday or this one's, anniversary or whatever it might be. And you have all these times throughout the year where there are moments where you're going to go out to dinner and you're going to go do what just we all do. And if you're so caught up in just constantly having to be like, I have to be no, be perfect all the time, or I'm just going to fail at this, it's like you don't. Just the body can filter that crap out if you can limit to how much crap you're introducing to it.
So the poison's in the dose is what you're saying.
Well, yeah. So if you're 80%, you're eating healthy all of the time, the majority at home where you control the food, you eat healthy. Um, but you go out to dinner every once in a while, and maybe it's a really nice restaurant, and that's just as good as eating at home. And maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
middle of the road, and you're eating at Chipotle, and you're still trying to eat whole foods, but you know that there's probably some pesticides and some antibiotics and hormones in the meat and the stuff, but it's still whole food. Your body's still recognizing that as food, and then your
Yeah.
liver's trying to pull out any of that garbage that comes along with that real food and trying to push it out.
Mm-hmm.
That's just that's life. and we
Yeah.
can avoid life. Now, I know there are instances where I've had patients that were so gluten sensitive that just thinking about gluten
Yeah.
would send them into
Yeah.
a trigger. I get that. I'm not talking about people that are ultra sensitive. And if you're that person, it's not gluten. It's not whatever you think it is. It's actually usually something much simpler. And usually it's the gut, and you have major gut issues if you're dealing with food sensitivities. And that's one thing I've had a lot of people come to me and go, "Hey, doc, do you run these food sensitivity panels?" And I say, "No." I said, what's the point?" And they're like, "What do you mean? I have this one here and all these docs run it." I'm like, there's no such thing as food sensitivity. You're
Oh.
either allergic or you have a problem. And if you're allergic to a food, you're going to know because you're going to need an EpiPen. You need an EpiPen. If you start swelling up, right? Somebody eats some seafood and they're allergic, they're going to swell up. You
Ding,
eat
ding,
gluten,
ding.
you eat gluten and you don't swell up, you just have a diarrhea or you have some kind
Yeah.
of reaction. That
Mm-hmm.
is not a sensitive, it is a sensitivity technically, but that is not an allergy. That's not a problem with the food. What that tells me is we're all creatures of habit, so we tend to eat the same foods over and over because that's just how we are. And if you have leaky gut, that means those foods that you expose your body to all the time are slowly seeping into the blood where they do not belong, which then eventually creates a reaction, a sensitivity. In some bigger cases, actually will create and mimic and not mimic, but basically it'll trigger almost like an autoimmune.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that gluten is a big one for thyroid people. It almost trigger that autoimmunity.
Oh.
And I was always kind of an outlier. This is back when Grain Brain and all these other anti-gluten books came out, talking about the harms of gluten. And, if you're a thyroid people, you shouldn't be on gluten. It never made sense to me. And I never bought into it. And I never told my patients that because I'm like, well, I get it. The bread, yeah, has like 30% more gluten now than it did back in the 90s or 80s. I get it. There is more gluten. But at the end of the day, the gluten can't trigger your autoimmunity unless it's getting into the blood.
Mm-hmm.
And it can't get into
Mm-hmm.
the blood unless you have a screwed up gut. You have gut permeability, leaky gut. You more than likely have dysbiosis, which is
Mm-hmm.
your microbiome is not, where it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I proved this out multiple times with patients that they knew flat out I could take one bite of a piece of pizza and it will throw me almost into a thyroid storm,
Oh,
right?
wow.
And that same lady, 8 months later, calling me on a Saturday because I kind of had a concierge practice, so they had my cell phone in case they needed me. And I get a phone call at like a 9 o'clock at night on a Saturday, and this lady calling me, amazing person, calls me and is basically crying on the phone because she had two pieces of pizza after her son's baseball game because it was late and nothing was open. So what did they do? They went to Casey's, and which, by the way, for
Yeah.
those that live in the Midwest, best gas, not just best gas
That's what
station
they
pizza,
say.
it may even
That's
some
what
of the
they
best
say.
pizza, period, because
That's
it's
what they
homemade,
say.
but it is actually homemade. They make the dough from scratch and
Oh,
everything.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. So she had some Casey's pizza. I couldn't even look at pizza before. I had two slices, nothing happened. And I said, because it was never the gluten, it was your gut. Once we healed your gut, now the gluten can't affect you. Um, the unfortunate part, what people don't understand is that gluten, the food that has the most amount of gluten, tends to be the foods with, breads, wheat containing food. Well, wheat is the most heavily sprayed crop with Roundup than any other crop. And it's the glyphosate, the active ingredient in the Roundup, that actually causes the leaky gut. So it's kind of chicken and the egg. Is it the gluten? No, it's not the gluten. It's the food the gluten comes from because it's sprayed with those pesticides, which
Mm-hmm.
causes your gut to open up, which then allows for the gluten to get in. It's almost
Mm-hmm.
like it's almost like if I was designing something, I would design it that way,
Yeah.
that this would cause this so this can do this.
I knew you were going to go there.
I'm not saying it is, but it almost seems that
You're right.
it's designed that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to be respectful of your time, but I do just have to touch on that. I'm just going to say one thing about
Yeah.
encouraging people to have a cheat meal. For people that rank high on the food addiction scale, I would not give them that advice for our listeners that are listening, only because I'm trying to help people build healthy habits. And unfortunately, designing a cheat meal can get into diet mentality for them. And one
Right.
cheat meal can turn into another year of cheat meals. So that's the only
Yeah.
place where we may differ, but I understand completely what you're saying. And
No,
I do,
we pretty much align on that. What I'm saying is like for the average person like myself, I'm not working on a health condition,
right.
right?
That's right.
So for me, hey, if you're out and about and you end up going out to lunch at a restaurant, not the end of the world. That's
Mm-hmm.
my point with the
Mm-hmm.
cheat meal more than
Yeah.
anything. Like you don't
Mm-hmm.
have to always eat 100% perfect 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, if you are somebody who has a health condition,
Yeah.
that's different. I don't tell my patients 80/20. I tell them, hey, we need to get you 100% better before you can move to 80/20.
Oh,
But
I like that
while
philosophy.
you're
Yeah.
trying to heal, we need to keep you as close to 100 as possible
Mm-hmm.
because some of these things can trigger. So as an example, I didn't believe in the whole gluten thing, right? But while we were healing their gut, they went gluten free. I would
Yeah.
have them go gluten free because it's going to be counterproductive. We're trying to heal your gut, and you're eating things with gluten, which have glyphosate, which is doing the opposite of what we're trying to do.
Right.
And at the same time, it's probably going to give you thyroid symptoms if you are eating gluten.
Mm-hmm.
So for this period of time while we're healing, I need you to eat this way. Once we get things fixed, and then now you're maintaining and you're got a good diet and good supplementation protocol, now, if you go to the 80/20 type rule moving forward with a good, healthy lifestyle, then you're going to be okay. But yeah, if you are healing and you're trying to heal and you're coming back from something, this 80/20 is not for you. That's for once you're past, you're over the hill and you're where everybody else is
Yeah.
trying to get to or is at already.
I love it. We have used you up more than I intended, and I apologize for
Oh,
that.
you're
But th
fine.
this has flown by. This has been a wonderful conversation. Do you want to tell people where they can find you?
Yeah. So I have two things. I have I no longer practice with patients. I do a lot of consulting now. I have my own supplement company, which I started about a year and a half ago. It's called Aegis Formulas.
And I'll have that
Yeah,
website listed.
Aegis is spelled Aegis, but all of these products are products that are high grade. They're created for doctors. We sell mostly to doctors, but people can buy it. So it's doctor level supplements with super clean, no gluten, no dairy, no garbage, none of that stuff. And we use some of the best absorption technology. So we get anywhere from 4 to 10 times the absorption rate as other supplements. So that's one. And then, but if people want to understand or learn kind of like what's this crazy doctor talking about, I want to get in his head a
Hmm.
little more. If you go to foundationalwellness.com, you can get a free gift there. It's a free guide. And also you can find my book there if you want. It's
Great.
foundationalwellness.com.
Thank you.
And that kind of goes through my whole concept and whole philosophy on health and how
Perfect.
everybody has the ability to take their health back. But it starts with you. It does not start with your doctor.
Beautiful. That's a perfect note to end on. I thank you. That was wonderful. And if you want
Absolutely.
to find out more about us, you can find us at realfoodrecovery4u.com. That's the number 4 and the letter U. And our book, Real Food Recovery, If Food Isn't the Answer, What's the Question, is out on Amazon today. Thanks so much, guys. See you next time. Bye bye.